Regular meeting of the River Falls Board of Education. This meeting has been properly notified, and we are going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any visitors or delegations who would like to address the board this evening? Well, I have one, at least on behalf of Mr. Ludke, and that's to say that Heidi Link is here, who is joining us, and so we're very pleased to have her. Mr. Ludke, would you do the
Yes, I can do that.
introduction,
I didn't know
please?
if we were on the agenda or not. After a rigorous process, we had a screening committee with several of our teacher input, with also admin input. We had 2 rounds of interviews, and our team worked with coming up with Heidi Link as our new assistant principal. Heidi comes from New Richmond School District, where she served both as an elementary principal and assistant high school principal as well, and then also was an instructional coach in Forest Lake. She brings a great acumen related to curriculum and instruction, and we're really excited to have her a part of our team. So I'm going to just introduce Heidi real quick.
Hello, you guys. Good evening. No, I'm really excited to join the Wildcat community. It's been an amazing adventure, and I am thrilled to be able to join the high school, to be able to better serve like the students there. That's my background and where my heart has been for my 17 years in education. I'm really serving at that secondary level, so I'm beyond excited to be here in River Falls. The staff has been incredibly welcoming. I had the opportunity to join one of the staff meetings. Was that 2 weeks ago? Yeah. Came down there and spent the afternoon excited about Service Learning Day and some of the pieces there that are coming up for some of the seniors. So thank you for having me, and thrilled to be joining the team here. So thanks.
Any other visitors or delegations? All right, we are going to move into informational items. Mike, we have 2 Wildcat Pride Awards.
All right. We have the honor to recognize 2 of our very own. We have 2 outgoing school board members that have been part of the school board for 6 years, 4 and 6 years, and probably a couple of the most difficult years and been the most difficult trying time to be a school board member. So
I thought you were going to say the most difficult board members you've
yeah,
ever.
no, that was coming. Yeah. No, so on a personal level, I thank you guys for your service and really appreciate it. So here we have it. If you would come up, Cindy and Bob. Not the most difficult. Right. All right, here we go. On behalf, Cindy and Bob, on behalf of students, staff, parents, and our community, the Board of Education extends its appreciation to you for your dedication, commitment, and devotion to serving on the school board for the past 6 and 4 years. Your passion for always making decisions in the best interest of students was a clear reflection of your values and that of our community. The countless hours, preparation, homework, and overall level of commitment you provided to help make this district the best it can be proves you to be true ambassadors of Wildcat Pride. So congratulations. Thank you for all your service very much. Bob, congratulations. Thank you. Speech, please. Speech.
Well, I have something to say. I know you'll be surprised by that, but... Well, I'm not going to be able to look both of you at this way, so... So Cindy and Bob, your school board service is drawing to a close, and so tonight, I thank you for your service and your commitment to public education. Over the past years, we've had some adventures together. COVID, referendum questions, building projects, leaky high school pipes. We've had a renovation to the Montessori school and finding a forever home for the Renaissance Academy. We've hired new administrators, updated numerous policies, pleaded the district's case with legislators, negotiated contracts, and endured elections. We've had some complicated closed session meetings, some long ed program meetings, and a few short F&F meetings.
There you go.
Yeah.
You are welcome.
You've navigated community sentiment and waded through emails, all in the name of ensuring that students in the school district of River Falls are served well. Thank you very much. So Cindy, a few things. You have consistently called for comparables, data that compares wages and benefits for specific employee groups across the district. But you've been clear that this data is important for all groups, those with higher and those with lower salaries, and so that we treat all groups fairly. One of your enduring legacies will be what we will call Cindy's Blueberry Test. After all, you're correct. Everyone should be able to afford blueberries. While you have a track record for supporting all students, you have also worked to make sure that no student is overlooked. You help the board increase its level of sensitivity so that we collectively remember to consider the needs of all kids, not almost all kids. You have achieved a helpful balance between speaking and listening. You listen well, and you listen often. And when you speak, you do so not for your own benefit, but for the board's benefit. And there's an awful lot to be said for that ability, so thank you. Bob, you arrived on the board right as COVID struck, and life and decision-making in the district moved into unprecedented territory. It's fair to say that there was no time for new board member orientation, so you jumped right into the deep end and you got to work. You learned fast and you persevered. You listened, you studied, and you were fair and balanced. You are among, or probably the most prepared board member I have ever worked with. You come to meetings thoroughly organized and ready for the issues. You've read the materials, but more importantly, you're ready to engage the issues reflected in the materials. You know that behind all of the numbers and the spreadsheets are values and opportunities, some of which can be competing and all of which need to be considered. Time and time again, you poured over reports and statistics to be ready to make decisions that impact kids, teachers and staff, and the River Falls community. You brought a willing collegiality to the board and set an example to all of us. So thank you. To both of you, school board service is time-consuming and intellectually demanding and emotionally laden. Thank you both for your tremendous service, and we will miss you. Thank you for being patient, fair, and honest members of the board. I assume that you, like all of us, have experienced times when your personal conviction, when you would have preferred your personal convictions to win the day, but you cast a vote for an outcome based for a policy or a decision or an action that was in the best interest of the district. And it takes courage to do that, especially when it doesn't match your first choice. So for those of us sitting around this table and your school board predecessors, we understand how complicated and critical that is. So thank you. So as I say to all departing board members, we'll miss you, but you know right where to find us on Monday nights, and you will always be welcome. So thank you. Thank you. All right, we are going to, yeah.
I just have to, I have
Absolutely.
to say, even though neither of us were going to say anything, I just have to say what an honor. Monica and Bo, you guys are joining a really great group. Argue with them and disagree and come to a solution before you leave the room. And that's a whole lot smarter leaving the board than when I joined the board. And I just really appreciate the leadership of everybody in this room. So thank you.
Thank you.
1 years ago, we moved to town, back to River Falls. And I always knew and thought the school district was wonderful in this town. My 3 daughters went here and that type of thing. But after serving 4 years on the board, my thoughts are reaffirmed. I completely agree with what my perception is reality. And the leadership that this administration and this board shows
All right, we are going to move on to reports, and the first one will be administrative reports related to building level SMART goals for 2023 and 24. So Rocky Branch on West Side, you get the floor.
Not using the mic, that's okay. Yeah. Okay, so I'm Ashley Bingenheimer, principal at Rocky Branch, Chris from West Side, and we're just doing our final update on our SMART goals. So the first one we don't have a huge update on. This is our math goal, and this is the same between our buildings. We don't have any new FastBridge data since our last mid-time report, but our goal, as a reminder, is to decrease the number of students who are some or high risk on the FastBridge math assessment by 3% from fall to spring. So we'll know more after our May testing window. We had a staff meeting last week, and so I had teams work together to talk. They did a little fidelity check. That was part of why we had this goal, is it's our kind of year to get back to our everyday math fidelity with our 3-year adoption. So they had to do a little form as a team about something that's gone really well with their fidelity this year that they've really stuck to, and then kind of a third trimester goal wrapping up the year, what's something they're really committed to sticking with for the end of the year. So we'll continue that work in the next part of our cycle as well. Our second goal is wrapped up. So this was about improving staff members' ability to identify and VAB common cultural behaviors. So this year we focused on 4 cultural behaviors. It was eye contact, proximity, collaboration, and kinesthetic learners. And we have West Side and Rocky Branch data here from fall to spring. I know it's really small, but the survey asked a few questions. The 2 we pulled out were staff indicating their current level of comfort with utilizing VAB statements. So that's the reactive piece, where if a behavior occurs in class, that staff feel like they can respond to it by validating the student, but also bridging them to being, for their behavior to be more appropriate for the classroom. So blue is very comfortable, yellow is somewhat, and then red is not comfortable. So you can see both schools had a lot of growth in that area, teacher reported. And then the second question we included was how frequently staff members are currently finding themselves using VAB statements with students. So again, fall to spring. The blue is regularly and seamlessly. The yellow is occasionally, and then orange is rarely, and red is almost never. So again, just good self-reported growth that teachers are feeling more and more comfortable utilizing those statements. It's hard in the moment to think of what to say sometimes, and so that's what we practiced throughout the year at our staff meeting. And then this is the Rocky Branch goal. This is different than West Side. We had a goal of strengthening our character education program to include new resources, which was the Character Strong program, and increase student involvement and ownership. So we were awarded an honorable mention State School of Character this year and received a Promising Practice Award for our student voice focus groups, which was an increase in our student involvement and ownership. And then I've talked before about some other stuff we've done this year too.
No, it might be helpful,
Yeah.
just going back a slide.
Yeah.
Can you give an example just for the people who are watching from home? and
Sure.
What a VAB statement.
Yeah, sure. So, for example, if a student comes into class really loudly and is kind of moving around and not maybe getting to work right away, and historically our response might be to kind of just tell them that they need to go find their seat and get to work. And so a VAB statement would be more trying to affirm I love that you're so excited to be here today and want to talk to your friends. Right now we need to focus and get the directions, and then we'll have some time to collaborate later. So affirming what they're doing, but bridging it to be more appropriate for the moment in the classroom. You want to give an example?
So this year we focused on the 4 areas, and it was the last 2 were this past in-service, and it was just wonderful to see the conversations. As I think the other buildings did, we did mixed groups, and so you would have a kindergarten teacher, a para, and say a 5th grade teacher together, and it's just wonderful to see the different perspectives and discussions, and of course you have different personalities in there too, and it was just a really neat to see the progress, and looking forward to continuing this work. And I see this on a regular basis, and I'm sure Ashley does too. You can see the progress being made, and even in our own brains, but it's wonderful to see it out there. And the one correction I would make is this was teachers and support staff too who participated in this. Depends on their schedules and things, but really happy with the progress in that area. I'll jump to West Side's final goal was to improve recess culture at West Side during this year and decrease in roadmaps by 3%. I didn't have the steps that we typically had in there. I just kind of updated and added some things. So adjustment and reteaching. So typically after major breaks, we review our school rules. We do a day in each area. And one thing, we've done it pretty similar the past few years. We do it after the major breaks, in the beginning of the year, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and spring break. And this year we said, we want to do it a little different. We think kids could probably identify the rules. And so we had one that was more teacher-led, one that was more just done different ways. And this last one we had paras identify at recess the areas that students are doing really well and an area they can work on by each grade. And then we spent the time together going through it. And that was, I think, really powerful to be affirmed the things that are going really well. And then, hey, these are areas we can keep going on. And in a month, we're going to come back and kind of revisit those. And we just started that conversation in our last para meeting, and it was fun to sit in groups of like, hey, this is going really well. They're really doing well with this. They accepted that challenge. And here's kind of what we're trying here. We're going to keep going with this, and just fun to see the progress. And I think for paras to be a part of that and have a voice in how that's going has been a powerful thing. Increase in staffing, we've talked about more staff out at recess, teacher support, teachers being a part of all those meetings, which has been different than how we've done it in past years. And then some PD for staff to kind of support and give some strategies outside and supporting individual kiddos. When I reported last time, I said that our data actually had gone up a little bit, and that part of it was just identifying more. That has gone the opposite way. February was close, slightly less than last year. March was down, and April has been very down so far in terms of recess behaviors. So with my luck, we'll have a lot tomorrow. So really proud of that work, and we're going to continue on it, but it's been good, and I would say it just seems to feel a little better. Not perfect by any means, but making progress, and that's in credit to a lot of people. So excited for that.
Good, thank you very much. All right, we have a number of reports, and now, Nate, would you give us a report, just very briefly, on the Human Growth and Development recent meeting, please?
Sure, yeah, so last week, Tuesday, we had our Human Growth and Development Advisory Committee meeting, and just a real quick little bit of background, that if districts choose to teach human growth and development in their school, they're required to have an ad hoc advisory committee. So it's important for the board and the public to know that districts do not have to have that as part of their curriculum, but here in River Falls, we choose to do that. So we brought together a committee that included 16 people. We opened it up for anybody to apply to show interest. We had 24 people in the community who said we'd like to participate. So we randomly selected members in different categories: community members, parents, clergy members, students, administrators, healthcare professionals, and I don't know, maybe I said this already, clergy, but there were seven different groups. 6 parents, 2 students, 2 clergy members, 2 community members, 2 healthcare professionals, 1 teacher, and 1 administrator. And we invited the teachers at the various levels, K-5, 6-8, and 9-12, to give a presentation on the scope and sequence as it aligned to the standards that they were teaching at their level. So they gave that presentation, and after each group, we had a question and answer session where the presenters were able to respond to questions that came from our advisory committee. And then at the conclusion of all of that, we were in small groups where we had some small group discussion, where together those small groups came up with ideas for feedback for us to consider in an advisory role for how we might move forward. And the 4 main takeaways that the group shared: one was to start our human growth and development instruction at an earlier age, which I agree with, but basically comes from 2 reasons. We find that kids, in particular girls, are maturing at an earlier age than what they used to, and 2, access to information is much more easy to come by through technology, cell phone use, internet, than what it had been. So the community thought we need to get out front of some of these issues by educating our students earlier. The membership also identified that they wanted to have a greater emphasis on acknowledging diverse sexual identities, which was good to hear as well, not to promote or to get into moral conversations about what's right or wrong, but to recognize that there are diverse identities in our world today, and that the human growth and development issues we're teaching apply to all identity groups. They also brought up a third item, which was pornography literacy. So thinking about the damaging impacts of using pornography and how easily accessible it is, that this was a suggestion by the committee as well. And then the last one was making sure that we have alignment between human growth and development curriculum and other content areas. So for instance, if a literature class is going to read a novel that touches on topics that might be mature, that we would want to try and ensure that the kids had some instruction on those topics through human growth and development, either at the same time or prior to getting into those kinds of books, so that they would be best able to handle the material that they were reading. So it was a super productive meeting, a lot of expertise in the room. Not only did we get feedback then, but I sent out another opportunity for them to give me feedback again, because sometimes it takes a while to let those ideas permeate, I guess. And so I look forward to getting that feedback from those groups. And as soon as they approve the minutes electronically, then we'll publish those as well.
Thank you. Thank you for that work.
Question, Nate, if there's anybody in the community who has questions or wants to know more about that, would you refer them to you?
Yep,
Okay.
yep, that'd be great.
And the list of the committee is public, so if people want to know who the members of the committee are?
Yep, that'll be in the minutes too. Yep.
Okay, all right.
Nate, do you know, I'm just curious, statewide, what human growth and development education is looking like? I mean, are there school districts that, I remember when this law went into effect, and it basically left it to the community, and I'm wondering, in the state of Wisconsin, are there communities that say, we're just not going to teach any of it?
I'm not sure, Allison. I would just be making a guess that most districts are teaching it.
think they are.
The research indicates that parents want this to happen in their schools. So I'm assuming that they are, but I don't know that for sure.
Be interesting, yeah, thanks.
Good, thank you. I think we will move on to our student reports.
I don't have that much for this last month, but all the spring sports are in full session at the high school, and out of our different solo ensembles that went to district, 65 entries are moving to state, and there's a concert for it tonight that starts at 7. So I need to leave early so I can go support that. But anyway, also high school interviews for the ACP Learning will be this Friday, or most of them will be this Friday, and yeah. Doing pretty good.
Well, I know that spring is a really busy time at the high school, so do well, and you better run over there to the high school so you don't have to speed. All right, thank you. We're going to move on then to the superintendent's report.
Wanted to share with the board a little information leading into an action item you're going to be asked to approve on our agenda, a new school forest handbook. And so I thought as an informational item it would be appropriate to give you a little update. I've invited some folks here to attend tonight just to largely because I want to recognize them, frankly, for the work that they've done. The school forest 3 years ago, we held a Dream Big event. We invited community members. I think we had about 80 people show up, and we explained that we gained new access to our school forest that had basically been landlocked since the 1940s with no main access road to it. And due to the wonderful partnership with the Kinney River Land Trust, they purchased an adjoining property that also included an access road off of Highway FF and from a new parking lot that has been erected there in the last 3 years. People can park there. You walk down the access road and you now can enter our school forest. This last spring, we were able to, through the work of a lot of volunteers, we had some clearing to do on that access road, meaning tree removal and so on, to allow buses to be able to traverse down that trek of land to get to our forest. We had over 1,000 students in our forest last year, and that's going to continue again moving forward, certainly this spring with some field trips. Specifically with the handbook in your board packet, I just want to mention, I think traditionally, like when a handbook comes before the board, there's student handbooks, staff handbooks, co-curricular handbooks, give some mission and vision and value statements, but a lot of the body of those handbooks are, here's how we do attendance, here's how our grade systems work, here's information for parents, here's some policies that come into play. And so this is a little different with this handbook. We've modeled our handbook designed around the way that other school districts have designed their handbook. There's some templates available. We've also partnered with the UW Stevens Point with their LEAF acronym program related specifically to environmental education. And so in this handbook, if you look on page 17 on the table of contents, we kind of talk about the mission and the vision for the school forest. There's a section on that, section on the legal description and some maps and where are the trails in our school forest. We did a formal needs assessment. What do we need to do in order to really make the school forest come alive? And so there's a record of showing some of the needs that we had some 3 years ago, along with some progress that has been made. We outline in this handbook some of the learning opportunities and the advantages for our students and for our community within this handbook. And then there's a section on sustainability. How will we continue to cultivate and maintain and sustain the school forest moving forward? And so a little different kind of handbook than what you traditionally see. And so, again, over these last few years, there's been some amazing progress that has been made. On page 25, you'll see some volunteers listed. You know what the risk is anytime you recognize people on paper, you're going to mistakenly leave somebody out. So we'll be bringing the handbook back, and you'll probably update it every year or two, and there will be additions, and this handbook will grow and change over time. But you know, the progress that's been made in just 3 short years is nothing short of incredible, really, and it has everything to do with volunteers in our community, and some of those folks, as I mentioned, are here. So I want to just point out a couple. Dennis Ireland. Dennis has been he's a foreman, he's a crewman, he's generous with his time, talent, and treasure. He and his wife bought an all-terrain wheelchair, providing access to those with limited mobility. He's been out there with his chainsaw and his gators and his skid steers and coordinates other people to get some work done. Mike Noreen is sitting right next to him. Mike's been amazing with some city partnerships and providing some of his own knowledge to our group, but also displaying some really good partnerships where the city's helped us out with some projects as well. Lauren and Michaela both in the back over here, they are the engine behind organization and keeping us kind of moving the needle and moving things forward. So we, after 3 years ago when we had 80 community members, we had divided into some subcommittees and so on. And to be honest with you, the numbers have dwindled, but we have a real solid core group. And within the remaining core group of volunteers, they've just made an incredible amount of progress. And Nate is here. Nate Brown's one of our teachers, been active with the committee and planning and organizing some of the student activities. We've got some more work to do around specific curriculum alignment to standards and really developing more of those hands-on learning activities and so on. More to come on all of that, but we're awful excited about the progress that's been made. Who have I missed that is here as a part of our committee that continues to meet monthly? Lynette's been helping on the financial side of things. David has been staying attuned to things as he's going to take on the superintendency and continue to support this group. And, you know, the opportunities we described to people when we invited them to dream big and think about what the future could hold for our students and for our community. I just wanted to share a statement about that gathering. The School District of River Falls Forest is a legacy project that's going to have a long-lasting impact for generations to come. Developing trails with education stations, a learning shelter, and an environmental curriculum will provide impactful and sustainable educational opportunities for generations to come. Students are going to gain greater appreciation for our precious natural resources, become advocates for the planet, explore career opportunities, improve social emotional supports, and better understand the connectedness of human life to our environment. And volunteers are making that happen. And the far-reaching impact of this for today, but moving into the future is a legacy that these people are creating right now in real time. And it wouldn't happen without their generosity. Today, as you go down this access road I was describing to you off of Highway F, this access road that gets you to our school forest property, we affectionately call that area the Four Corners. Because our property is straight ahead of you, and to the left and to the right is Kinney River Land Trust. When they purchased that access road, they purchased 40 acres. It's right next to our property. And then, get my bearings straight, to the west of Kinney River Land Trust property is city-owned property. So this all borders also the pristine Kinney River. And so this protected land that the school district owns, along with the land by the Kinney River Land Trust, along with the land owned by the city, is protected forever. And it is some of the most pristine Wisconsin land under the sun. And the opportunities that we're creating for our students and for our community are obviously endless. But I just can't say enough about how this all came together and how this happened. So from this Four Corners today, we have an excavator out there. We have a gentleman that's paving the way now from the Four Corners to get us back to the prairie, which is a part of our property. On that prairie, we have a trail where we're going to put down crushed limestone and provide ADA access for all. So there will be wheelchair accessibility on that trail. We're partnering with the Rotary and hoping to generate additional funding sources beyond Rotary, and there will be a facility out there. There will be a pavilion-style facility at that prairie location. That's going to happen before the snow flies again. It's going to happen this summer. We're going to have a building out there. We're going to have this gravel road extension, and so this is amazing progress, again, that the funding source, the revenue that we've used for these projects are grounded first in a conservation easement. It's basically a contract. The DNR paid the district to sign on to this easement, making promises that you will not do this to the property, you can do this. And the Kinney River Land Trust is kind of the watchdog. They keep an eye on our property, and we have to work closely and partner with them, in some cases even partnering with the DNR on some of the advancements that we're making. Because we don't want to turn this into Noah's Ark out there. We don't want to have signs all over the place. We don't want to disrupt the beauty of the natural property, and we're being very mindful with our property management and the progress that we make to be sure that we do it the right way. I don't know. I guess that's in a nutshell. That gives you kind of the quick and dirty where we've come from just in 3 short years, and really, really significant progress right now. When that gravel road extension gets us to the Prairie Loop Trail, ADA accessible, along with a pavilion-style facility, and the vision is someday there will be restrooms out there, but that'll be down the road a ways. I mentioned funding source from the conservation easement, so the DNR paid money to the district many years ago to sign on to this easement, about $34,000, and frankly, it was sitting still for a while in that account, and that's what we've been using to pay for some of these improvements. And then, through the generosity of Pierce County Department of Health, we received another $18,000, and that's going to help us make this road happen, and it's going to help financing some of those improvements to the Prairie Trail and so on. So really amazing progress that's been made. And so again, just publicly, I want to thank those that have made this happen. Your work is incredible and it is relentless. So well done, and thank you on behalf of our kids and our community for doing that.
And thank you to our superintendent who has been guiding this process and championing it because he understands how important it is for the community and for our kids. This is further evidence of what we've been talking about in terms of this community support for education. We've not only had the successful referendum questions very recently, but now we see the folks here who are giving of their time and their vision and their energy to be able to create something really remarkable for our kids. So thank you, everybody. It is not rude if you need to go and if you need to leave. You might want to take a hike out in that school forest. I don't know, but. Okay.
Thank you all.
We are going to turn to letter C, informational item letter C, which is to congratulate re-elected board member Alan Tuchtenhagen and to welcome newly elected board members Bo Herstein and Monica Lavold. And so all three of them are going to be serving a 3-year term. It's probably important to recognize that these are attached to the minutes, would be the final canvassing documents, which does demonstrate that Alan received 100 more votes than was initially reported. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. So welcome, and thank you for your willingness to continue to serve. It will be a pleasure to have you. All right, action items.
And it'll officially, by the way, take place next week.
Next Monday,
When we do
or
our
by next Monday, when you will do your oath of office. All right, we are going to move on to action items. Before the board this evening, we have meeting minutes from the March 25th regular Board of Education meeting. We have bills that have been submitted for payment, as well as recommendations regarding employment. So at this point, do we have a motion to approve minutes, bills, and employment as presented? Thank you, Allison. Is there a second? Bob? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. We also have before the board this evening the School Forest Handbook. Jamie gave us some information about this. It's a depository really of history and of information that will be placed on the district website. Is there a motion to approve the School Forest Handbook? Thank you, Lindsay. Is there a second? Thanks, Bob. Questions or comments? There was a lot of work.
This represents a lot of work. I was just thinking as Jamie was talking about all these groups, in our whole term on the board, you know, we've been talking about this school forest and can we get access, It's finally coming together. It sounds so simple. The city, the DNR, the Kinney Land Trust, the school district, the city, everybody's kind of working together. That doesn't happen very often as well as it's going around this, and through an awful lot of efforts and certainly Jamie's leadership here, we've been able to get people to begin agreeing on this, and outside money and creative ways of putting this together. It's really happening after a long time. So
Tom Westerhouse really led the charge too before Jamie.
Yep.
I mean, that was his.
For a land swap
I think
to
it was
pave the way?
I think it was the last thing that happened before you left, is that we had.
did that land
We
swap,
did a swap with the other family.
right? He really helped launch this, bring a lot of attention to that. But it's really been this just recently. But just watching all those units work together and the amount of volunteer help on this, this is a real testament to this community and their willingness to help on a project like this. So.
Anything else? We have a motion that's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. Ellen, I'll turn to you for an ed program update.
The Education Program Committee met on Monday, April 1, and there's several things about the way our system, the way we do business here that kind of get reflected in this. Our agenda called for a couple of things on this, which we ended up tabling, and this happens periodically. Our committees are typically where we thoroughly look at our issues, discuss our issues, talk about them, and make recommendation and changes before it comes to the whole board meeting here, so we really shake things out. If we're not ready to do that, especially if stuff isn't coming together at the last minute, we'll often table them, but sometimes we don't come to that realization till after it's been posted. So as I go through what our issues are, there'll be 2 issues here that were tabled, and that's kind of how that happened. So the first was, we had a really nice update by Brian Dado, our Supervisor of Information Technology, about cybersecurity in the district. And that's a topic that's, I don't think it's something that a lot of people are aware of, but it is so absolutely critical to our kids' safety, our ability to teach using technology, our ability to communicate, not only within the district and our students and all of that, but with the community as a whole. So we talked about how we do that and the safeguards that we've got, and we responded to a lot of our questions about how this works and that, and it was very good exchange and conversation about how we're handling cybersecurity in the district. And I would suggest if there's anybody here or watching tonight who has questions about that, that Brian would be a really good contact person to update them on that. One of our agenda items was high school professional learning communities, an update on that, but we needed a little bit more information, so we decided to table that till probably our May meeting, Nate. We're going to take that up in May. Okay. We had an excellent presentation by Lauren and Jenny from our community ed department to talk about how they're handling community education and communications. Talked about the presentation that Jenny gave at the state conference back in January. Some of the activities that are going on, some of the ways in which we're communicating with people in the district and how they're doing that. Again, very informative, lots of give and take, questions, conversations about both of those. The other thing we ended up tabling was our district's library media plan. We want a little bit more information before we actually wade into that in committee, and that will come up again in May. And we're going to be ready for that, Nate. Okay. And then that was basically it. So we've got our agenda partly set already for May. There'll be a few other things on it. So it also is just one more comment about how we do business. So we like to see this information in advance, which if we're not getting it in advance, it makes our meetings harder. So our job as board members, and I'm reminded of this because tomorrow night's the orientation for new board members in this part of the state, but we get this material in advance and we read it and we do our best to study it as much as possible. We come to the meetings and we listen to the presentations. We then ask questions and have discussions back and forth. And then we bring our opinions to the table and we express our opinions. And it's such a different way of doing it. This board seems to get along really well, and we do get along pretty well. But part of it is that's the way we do stuff, rather than start with our opinion and work back from there. It really helps us build this because we all come from different backgrounds, and if we all just start with our individual opinions, we maybe don't have all the information. So we've developed a knack of working together that is less confrontational and less tension building. But I just, in our conversations tonight, and it's the last meeting of this board and before the new meeting of the next one, and it's worked for us. And I'll just also say that's one of the great things Bob and Cindy have brought to the board too, is that ability to thoroughly discuss and engage this stuff with each other before we actually start into, are we going to vote for this? Are we not going to vote for this? And what are our opinions? So appreciate that from both of you. So anyway, that's my extended report, sorry.
All right, thank you. Mike, Finance and Facility, a committee update, please.
All right. So the Finance and Facilities Committee met on Monday, April 8th. Had a good lengthy meeting. Our first action item, or our first, we reviewed a budget, our 23-24, kind of our monthly update as to how we're doing versus our budget, and indications are strong that we're doing very well. There were no outliers, and had a good solid report on that. We also went through our audit report. We have an audit firm for our 22-23, so it would have been July of 22 through June of 23. Clifton Larson Allen is our auditor. They come in every year and do an audit and then report back to us, and also then report, the report is submitted to the DPI for their approval. So we had that. Some highlights. The district, we had spent all of our COVID, our ESSER funds, almost $2.1 million in 22-23, so those are all gone. We have a fund balance. Our policy is 25 to 30% of our budget in a fund balance, which is kind of the savings account for the school district. Our policy range is 25 to 30%, and we were at 29% at the end of June. So that is strong.
It might be a good point for us to do that. The reason we do that is because of the fluctuation in cash flow in the district, so that we don't have to go into short-term borrowing.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
And we
I would
get
just
down
say-
to,
Yeah, I would just add cash flow is just when it's reported on the audit, it's a snapshot from one day. And it includes tax payments that haven't been received and won't be received for 2 months yet. So it's not the amount of cash we have in the bank. It's a combination of several things, but it does include our cash and investments. So.
right. And our low time is December before the January payments start in. And we get down to 400,000.
Yeah, I think it was a couple of months ago, we reviewed the cash flow analysis, and that's correct. And that's typical of most school districts. December and June are when we're keeping a close eye on cash flow.
Right, because then we start to get payments in January from the real estate taxes, and then in July
Yep.
as well. So another highlight, we were able to pay off $5.18 million worth of our bonds last year. So those that helps when you go to referendum and add new debt. We were able to pay off other debt, so it's kind of replacing it. So that's a positive. So that was the audit report. We also then discussed our design and planning team update. We got a lengthy conversation about some of the planning, and most of it centered around the high school and the multi-purpose facility that we're building there, and talked about different options there, and just talked about some of the updates with the referendum. So we then went into closed session, and that was it.
And I think that we discussed the fact that if our referendum questions hadn't passed, our budget update for 23-24 would have been a very different conversation. So,
Oh, just to add on that, it just really struck me that Monday night, what a different conversation we would have been having Monday night if those referendum questions had not passed. We really, I'm in deep appreciation to this community for supporting those two referendums, because we would have been, the conversation would have been about additional budget cuts, layoffs, those kind of long-term, short-term. My only worry is that people won't notice this, all the benefits, because they're not going to notice anything draconian happening going forward, because they voted to support what we've got in place. So deep appreciation to this community. I can't thank this community enough for supporting those two referendum questions. It will make a big difference for the kids here.
absolutely. The Personnel Committee met on April 8th, and during that meeting, we heard a certified staffing update. We also then discussed the certified staffing plan so that we would know what would be coming. We recommend that the board approve sending letters of intent to certified staff, which is an annual responsibility of school board members. We also reviewed revisions to policies 522.1 and 523.3. One of them is related to alcohol and drug-free workplace parameters, and then also the employee assistance program. The committee then went into closed session, and during that closed session, we discussed the resignation of an employee, as well as we received an overview of the 24-25 contract negotiations. Because it had already been a lengthy meeting, especially because F&F had been lengthy that night, unusually so, we decided to table the job description revisions that did not have to happen at that meeting, and so we're going to take that up now in May. So at this point, I make a motion to approve sending letters of intent to all certified staff. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, questions, or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. We also have two second reading of revised school board policies. That's the ones that we discussed during personnel. They have received, I would say, quite careful appraisal on this over a period of time. And so at this point, is there a motion to approve the second reading of revised school board policy 522.1 alcohol and drug-free workplace, as well as the second reading of revised School Board Policy 523.3, Employee Assistance Program. Thank you, Allison.
Second.
Thank you, Bob. Questions or comments? Policy work is time-consuming, and it can be just plain putsy. So thank you, everybody, for the comments. I think these will serve us well going forward. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, and the motion is carried. All right, do we have any proposed or suggested items for the next regular or any future board meeting agendas? I will just give you an idea that there will be, we will be continuing to revise our school board policies, so those are going to be a pretty prominent feature for a while. Anything else? Okay, then we're going to schedule upcoming meetings. The Educational Program Committee will meet Monday, May 6th. The Finance and Facilities Committee will meet Monday, May 13th at 6 o'clock. The Personnel Committee will meet Monday, May 13th at 7 or immediately following Finance and Facilities. The next regular board meeting will be Monday, May 20th at 6 o'clock. There is a Board of Education retreat on Monday, June 3rd, starting at 3, as well as the board reorganization meeting, what's the date of next Monday? 22nd. The board reorg meeting will be April 22nd, starting at 6 o'clock. Those meetings will all take place here in the district office conference room. And at this point, I would like to have someone make a proposal to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute, section 1985-1C, which permits convening into closed session for the purpose of considering the employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility to discuss the 24-25 contract negotiations. Is there a motion? Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Alan. I need a roll call. Allison, Lindsay, Bob, Mike?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
I'm saying yes. Cindy? All right, we are going to go into closed session. Thank you, everybody, for coming.